characterize this
Magandang umaga
strike
mga
he was
kapuso,
talking about.
42 degrees
Several inches of rain falling over the United Arab Emirates,
Kabilang
prompting
po
flight
dyan ang Pasay
cancellations
City
in
na
the
nasa
second
42
busiest
degrees
airport.
Celsius ang inaasahang mararamdamang init. Pinakamatindi naman sa Rojas, Capiz.
It's so tiring pushing this cart under in this.
A U.S. official confirms Israel has launched a strike against Iran. It happened overnight. So far, no comment from Tel Aviv.
Hi! In today's world, the occurrence of sudden and catastrophic events, known as disasters, highlights the vulnerabilities of our societies to a myriad of challenges. Those events, whether natural phenomena like earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes, or human-made occurrences such as industrial accidents or terrorist attacks, showcase the fragility of our systems and structures. In the wake of these disasters, the vulnerabilities inherent in different aspects of society are starkly revealed. These vulnerabilities, spanning infrastructure, communities, and ecosystems, underscore the urgent need for comprehensive disaster preparedness and mitigation strategies. So for example, there is a storm in your town. Imagine your house if it might suffer when the storm is really severe. That's what we call vulnerability. If the storm is not that strong, the vulnerability of your house is not that severe. So, the stronger the event, the more vulnerable things are. The weaker the event, the less vulnerable things become. So, who or what are those vulnerable when it comes to disaster? Exposure refers to the elements at risk from a natural or man-made event. This simply means that exposure is about what's at risk when something bad like natural disaster or human-made problem is about to happen. In simpler means, the more exposed a person has to various hazards or risks, the more vulnerable they are.
There are types of vulnerabilities, of different elements that are determined due to its exposure to particular and specific hazard. First is physical vulnerability. What is physical vulnerability? Physical vulnerability includes population density levels, place of settlements, the site design, and material used for infrastructures and housing. When hazardous events occur, normally physical elements are severely damaged. It's about how easily things like buildings, houses, and other physical elements can get harmed when a disaster like a storm or earthquake happens.
Next is social vulnerability. Social vulnerability happens due to the inability of people, organizations, and societies to prevent severe effects from hazards because of the expected behavior in social interactions, institutions, and system of cultural values. For example, is a decrease in population density like what happened in Baguio during 1990 in North Luzon when a lot of people were injured and died. Communications were cut off when cell sites shut down or disrupted of transport. Due to the inability of small vehicles to pass through the flooded areas and impassable roads and bridges, with some difficulties the delivery of services such as relief goods and medicines, a lot of problems occurred like shortage of food and spread of infectious diseases. Therefore, when social elements were exposed to hazard, these may lead to disruption of normal processes and activities in the community. So the third type is economic vulnerability. Economic vulnerability stems from the financial capacity of individuals, communities, and nations. Countries with lower economic status are more susceptible to disasters due to limited resources for constructing resilient infrastructure and implementing protective measures. This lack of funds hampers their ability to withstand and recover from disasters, making them more vulnerable to their devastating impacts.
So, the last one is the environmental vulnerability. Environmental vulnerability is caused by natural resource depletion and destruction. Organisms like humans, animals, and plants are all dependent on the environmental for survival.
Here in the Philippines, we experience a lot of disaster. So why Philippines is more vulnerable when it comes to disaster?
First, it lies in the Pacific typhoon belt and we are visited by an average of 20 typhoons every year. The rugged nature of the landscape makes it vulnerable to landslides, mud flows, and other disasters. Second, it is an archipelagic country with many small islands where some areas are below sea level. Third, it has the longest shoreline in the world at 32,400 kilometers, making it vulnerable to storm surges.
It is still a primarily agricultural and fishing economy with poor institutional and social capacity to manage, respond, and recover from natural hazard events, with a high level of poverty aside from typhoons. It is also at risk of volcanic eruptions, quakes, and floods.
Moving on to the approaches to vulnerability reduction. This includes number 1, implementing building codes. Making sure buildings are constructed to withstand natural disasters like earthquakes or hurricanes, reducing damage and keeping people safer. Number 2, insurance and social protection. Providing financial support and assistance to people who suffer losses from disasters, helping them recover more quickly. Number 3, emphasizing economic diversity and resilient livelihoods, creating a variety of job opportunities and income sources so communities can bounce back after disasters instead of relying on one vulnerable industry. Number 4, knowledge and awareness raising. Educating people about potential risks and how to prepare for them so they can take action to protect themselves and their communities. Number 5, preparedness measures. Planning and practicing what to do in a case of a disaster, like evacuation routes or emergency kits to minimize harm and save lives.